This wonderful morning, Friday the 3rd of December 2021. Can I make you all aware today's meeting will be recorded? Can I also welcome any members of the public and press to today's meeting? Can I kindly ask you to observe the meeting only and not speak or participate? I would also like to welcome invited local members and Mr. Tony Moon and Mr. Stephen Mackey from the Rhondda Tunnel Society this morning to this meeting. Can I please remind you all to switch your phones to silent for the duration of the meeting? And can I refer you to the protocols for remote meetings which have been previously circulated? Namely, your microphone should be switched to mute unless you are speaking. Should you wish to ask a question or make a comment, can you please indicate either via the chat function or by raising your electronic hand? I will assume that you have all read the paperwork before us today prior to the meeting, and please only use the chat function to indicate if you wish to speak as an alternative to the electronic hand function or to raise any technical issues. Regarding technical issues, I know the local members up in the Avon Valley may be having some. So Chloe, if you can keep an eye on those members for me, please, just in case they drop out, and make me aware of it at the time. Thank you. When asking the question, can you please indicate which page number you're referring to? And I will take you now to the first item on the agenda, which is to do the roll call. I'm Councillor Steve Hunt, and I'm here this morning. I will now ask Chloe, the Democratic Service Officer, to take the roll call, please. Chloe.
Thank you, Chair. I've marked you as present. Councillor Rachel Taylor.
Present, Chloe.
Councillor Dean Causey.
Present, Chloe.
We've had apologies from Councillor Chris Jones. Councillor Hugh James.
Present, Chloe. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you.
Brilliant.
We've had apologies from Councillor Sheila Penry. Councillor Sean Percy.
Present.
Councillor Saifra Harman.
Present, Chloe.
Councillor Nigel Hunt. No. Councillor Scott Bamsey. Councillor Jamie Evans. And Councillor Simon Noyle.
I'm here, thanks, Chloe.
And then we've got invited members, Councillor Nicola Davis.
Present, Chloe.
Councillor Jane Jones.
Present, Chloe.
Councillor Scott Jones. Chair, I know Councillor Scott Jones was the one that had connection issues. If I see him, I think he's not in the meeting at the moment, but if I see him, then I will inform you, okay?
Thank you, Chloe.
And Councillor Sonia Reynolds.
Present, Chloe.
And then Cabinet members, Councillor Net Wingrave.
Present, Chloe.
Councillor Leanne Jones.
Present, Chloe.
And also Councillor Carol Clement Williams has also been invited today.
Yeah, Chloe, sorry, Chair, I'm attending today for item 6, asset sponsorship. Thank you.
Thank you. And then officers, Nicola Pierce. Simon Brennan.
Present, Chloe.
Perry Morris.
Present, Chloe.
Andrew Collins.
Present, Chloe.
Hugh Jones.
Present, Chloe.
Andrew Griffiths.
Present.
Chapel.
Present, Chloe.
Chair Lana Bynum will be joining the meeting. We're calling her in at her item, her first item, and the update that she's going to give on her report will be given then as well, if that's okay.
Yes, thank you, Chloe.
Then we've got Mr. Moon from the Rhondda Tunnel Society.
Present, yes, hello.
Thank you. And Mr. McKay from the Rhondda Tunnel Society.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And Jane Woodman Ralph.
Present, Chloe.
Have I missed any officers participating in today's meeting? Nope, I think that's everyone then, Chair. That's the roll call complete.
Thank you, Chloe. I just noticed
Chair,
Councillor Scott Jones has now arrived, so can you add him to the roll call, please?
And I can see Councillor Nigel Hunt is in the meeting as well. So I'll mark him as present as well.
If you mark both as present, then please. Scott, you put your hand up, I assume, to say you're here, or was it to say something else?
No, you are correct, Chair. It was only to make aware that I am present. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, item 2 is Chair's announcement. We have 2 items on the scrutiny agenda today, which we will be looking at, and we have chosen to scrutinise agendas item 8, 10 and 11 on the Cabinet Board agenda, along with the private agenda item 15. Are there any other items contained in the agendas this morning the members wish to scrutinise? I'm asking that question because there was members not present at the pre-briefing yesterday. So any member want to scrutinise any other item on the agenda that I have not mentioned in the Chair's announcement? Nigel, Councillor Hunt, please. You're on mute, Nigel. Still on mute.
Sorry, Steve. Yeah, there was something about PM10 breaches, pollution breaches in Port Talbot, and I wanted to ask someone about that, but I'm not sure what item it's on. I can find it.
Chloe, can you advise where that item might be?
Yeah, what on the Cabinet Board papers was it, Councillor Hunt?
It's item 9, the key performance indicators,
Oh.
Chloe.
Okay, thanks, Jane. Yeah, we can add that one to the list then, Chair.
There we are. When we get to that item, Nigel, I'll bring you in for you to ask that question then.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Okay. Would also just like to clarify that the Cabinet Board agenda item 8, the active travel report, has been included as a supplement to the agenda. Can I now bring in Lana Bynan at this stage to provide an update to the published report? Or did you say she's going to do it later, Chloe?
Yes, Chair, Lana will be providing an update when we get to that particular item.
Okay. And that's where she, okay, appreciate that. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Can members please indicate whether they have any declarations in relation to the items that we have chosen to scrutinise, please? Councillor Sean Percy, please.
Yes, thanks, Chair. It's in relation to item 8 on the Cabinet Board agenda, the active travel item. Members of the committee will know I submitted quite a lot of the consultation on that, so I won't be taking part in that agenda item after taking some advice.
Thank you, Sean. Councillor Nigel Hunt, is there a legacy or you declaring an interest?
It's a legacy, Steve.
Thank you. Okay. Chloe, you got that for Sean to for his declaration?
Yes,
yeah?
yes, Chair. I'll send Councillor Percy a declaration form after the meeting to fill in.
Thank you very much. Item 4, the minutes of the previous meeting. There are 2 sets of minutes. The first one was the 17th of September 2021. Does any member have any comments to make on the accuracy only of the minutes that are set out in your papers? If you have, can you please indicate now? I see none. So can I please have somebody to propose and somebody to second to approve these minutes, please?
I'll move, Chair.
Thank you. Seconder?
I'll second, Chair.
There we are. Thanks, Scythe. Yeah. And also minutes of the 22nd of October 2021. Again, does any member have any comments on accuracy only? If not, can I also have a proposal and a seconder for those minutes, please?
Move, Chair.
Thank you. Seconder?
Second, Chair.
There we are. Got that, Chloe? Yeah?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 5 is the Rhondda Tunnel Society presentation. The next item on the scrutiny agenda is to receive a presentation from the Society. In attendance today, as indicated earlier, is Mr. Tony Moon, the Project Secretary of the Society, and Mr. Stephen Mackey, the Chair of the Society. I will now hand over to Mr. Moon and Mr. Mackey, who will be providing us with a presentation. But first, could I check if any members would like to receive questions during the presentation or at the end. I would recommend at the end. I think it would be best if we go through the presentation, and I'm sure members can jot down their questions and ask at the end of the meeting, if everybody's in agreement with that at the end of the presentation, sorry. And also, can I just remind members that we do have a private agenda item on this Rhondda Tunnel Society, the Rhondda Tunnel, and do not overlap questions when you have them at the end of the presentation, if you would, not to complicate our work today. So over to Mr. Tony Moon and Mr. Stephen Mackey, please. In your capable hands, I will leave this presentation now, gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Can you see my screen? It should say Rhondda Tunnel.
Yes.
Good,
Yes.
and you can hear
Yes.
me. Right, good. So thank you very much, Chairman, for our introduction. And I'm going to talk to you briefly about three things. First of all, project costs. Secondly, something we have become much more aware of recently, creating a must-visit attraction. And thirdly, probably most important, what we want to do to get on with the project at Blind Grinvey. So let's carry on. Project costs. We've had a technical subcommittee of retired very senior local authority and mining engineers. They've produced detailed plans for the tunnel, and they've been endorsed recently by the Associate Director of Arup in Cardiff, a very large construction and consulting company who do a lot of work with Network Rail. The physical work will take 18 months from the first time the ground is cut to being able to open the tunnel with all its infrastructure. And our project includes visitor centres, both ends at Blind Cwm and Blind Grinvey, and also micro hydro schemes at both sides. There are lovely streams both sides. We're working with Natural Resources Wales to develop them, and that will provide green power. It will also provide the opportunity actually to put remote working facilities in the visitor centres, which could be a great asset, especially in Blind Grinvey. We've recently had that validated, our estimates by Corduroy, a large quantity surveyors in the national company, but based in Cardiff. Project cost 13.111 million. So that's the sort of working figure we're working with at the moment. That covers that item. Now, South Wales has two long abandoned railway tunnels. There's one between Abernant and Merthyr, and of course the Rhondda tunnel. This is Blind Grinvey. RCT Council has a portal in both tunnels, so it finds itself sort of, well, it wants to develop both, and I think really so do we. The Abernant Merthyr tunnel is an active travel, seen as an active travel route between Merthyr and Aberdare. The Rhondda tunnel is much more a visiting attraction. Abernant Merthyr has continued with public funding, but little public support, but Merthyr Council lobbies hard for support. Rhondda Tunnel will be the longest anywhere in Europe, and for 6 months of the year, longest anywhere in the world. That's a cycling and walking tunnel. And it's seen much more as a visitor attraction. It really needs to be developed as such. It has huge public support, but we've had very little public funding in the last, well, none in the last 3 years, quite honestly. So it's sometimes how it used to feel like this, and I've changed this from the presentation I sent round with the notes to say it used to feel rather like this. Strong support from Neath Talbot Council can balance that, but I think the scales are swinging in the other direction now. There are some serious technical problems with the Abernant Merthyr tunnel. It's got unrecorded construction charts which are potentially weak points in the tunnel, and they have those weak points, construction sites, have caused fatalities to other tunnels in the past. It's also got bats roosting there, and they are a bit of a nightmare. The Rhondda tunnel has neither of those issues, and it's a big advantage for it, really. So I think we've got very good prospects now, and we're also getting much better support from yourselves. This is really welcome. It's very important we continue to get this. Current situation. Both tunnels are owned by the Westminster Department for Transport. That's Grant Shapps, Transport Secretary, MP. The Department for Transport will transfer them to the Welsh Government with a small sum, £60,000 for Rhondda, but the Welsh Government wants several £1 million. And Chris Bryant MP is approaching the Department for Transport on behalf of the Welsh Government for funds. I have a little bit more to say about that in a moment. He's been doing a pretty good job so far. RCT Council are currently recruiting a consultant through their sort of standard recruitment process, basically to write an application to the Heritage Lottery Fund for £5 million, specifically for the Rhondda Tunnel. And it's essential, really, that Neath Talbot Council gives that lottery fund application its full blessing. We're not at this point asking for money, which is much easier to. So I think we want to make that clear. Maybe later on things might change, but not at the moment. Oh, now this is Chris Bryant asking in Westminster for Grant Shapps to basically inviting him to the Rhondda Tunnel. Let's see if we can see this.
Very happy to visit when time allows.
Chris Bryant. Well, I hope it's going to be very soon because, frankly, the harness is ready. The mines rescue service is ready to dangle him down a hole, and I'll be right behind him. But on a serious point, the Rhondda Railway Tunnel is a disused tunnel. It's 3,443 yards long. It belongs, oddly, to Highways England, so it's his responsibility. If we were able to turn it into, as many people hope, a cycle path, reopen it, it will be the longest cycle path in the whole of Europe. It will be a major attraction locally. I think it'd be good for tourism, it'd be good for jobs, in particular in an area of outstanding beauty, but unfortunately, terrible financial deprivation. So he's welcome.
Seriously. Mr. Speaker, I did a bit of research actually following our last exchange at the dispatch box, and it transpires that it's National Highways, as he rightly says, that own this at the moment. But very happy to transfer that to a local group, to Welsh Government, to the local council, with money for the purpose, and he's welcome to take that up. And you know, I look forward to taking up his offer of his harness at some time in the future when I can come and see it fully open.
Stephen Hammond.
Good. So, did you heard the sound all right, didn't you? Yep, good. So you can see Chris Bryant is certainly doing his job at representing getting the tunnel handed over with a decent sum of money. Now, the tunnel has 526 alcoves in it. This is a picture from the middle of the tunnel showing the alcoves in it. It's dry and mild all year round. It offers really a huge exhibition space. Why not use those alcoves for interactive displays to make something much more of the tunnel than just a walk or a ride through a 2-mile long tunnel? Some displays could be sponsored. Graphic arts, museums, famous Welsh people, etc. We're very welcome to ideas, and I've got something else to say about that. Plenty of room for all of them. And as a result, we had a meeting at the beginning of October, chaired by Helen Fachen, Assembly Member of Senate, who is also used to be head of policy for the National Museums of Wales. And at that meeting, the CEO of the National Library of Wales was very interested. They have a huge digital archive, and we could put on some interactive displays for people as they go through this part of the tunnel to show them some of the things from Welsh history. This would be a fabulous resource for us, and it would bring all sorts of people up to Blaen Gwynfi and to develop a tourism industry here. That's just one of many ideas. We're having a follow-up meeting with the National Library team in this month. And there's long sections of the tunnel that have bare walls. But why not put some sound and light displays? Kerry Thompson, so the curator of the Big Pit Mining Museum for the National Museum, he suggested actually we have a sort of light and sound display of a train coming towards you in the tunnel. That would be rather lovely. But all sorts of ideas, all welcome. And this is what we plan to do in that middle section of the tunnel. We plan to put a removable barrier down the middle. We plan to widen the tunnel out to its full width, which is 4.3 meters. Pedestrians will walk down one side, or wheel bikes or whatever, and we'll have alcoves with displays on that side. Cyclists will go along the other side. And the shape of the tunnel actually lends itself to something like that. So it's pretty good. Now, to emphasize the point, I read a book just recently. It was called Narrowboat Dreams. It was about a man who took a canal boat from the Midlands up to the north of England to Huddersfield through the Standedge Canal Tunnel between Manchester and Huddersfield. And it says, let me tell you a secret about the Standedge Tunnel, one won't even whisper. And it says it's 5,005 yards long, 3 miles, 645 feet above sea level. It takes 3 hours to go through by boat. On the next page it says, what they won't tell you, the secret they keep to themselves, is that it's also very boring. That's a challenge to us. We can't let visitors feel the same about the Rhondda Tunnel. That's why we're putting so much emphasis on putting things in there to really make it something more than Europe's longest walking cycling tunnel. This graph shows long cycling and walking tunnels throughout the world. Ones that are open all year and have a tarmac surface, some of them drop out. The Rhondda Tunnel, if we put an extension, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, if we put an extension on at the end, it'll become over 2 miles long. It really will be a long tunnel. And it takes an hour to walk from end to end. So we've got to think about that carefully now at this stage. But I don't think we should be put off by a challenge like that. I think that's a real special thing for South Wales, quite frankly, and for Neath Talbot to host this thing could be a wonderful project. Now, come on specifically to Blaen Gwynfi. This is a view taken in the 1970s. The tunnel has shut. You can see the portal there. It's quite deep. The railway track's been lifted, but they haven't filled that hole in. Now, this is a picture taken, I think, last winter from roughly the same spot. So things have changed an awful lot. Some of the buildings are still there. The portal is just about where my cursor is now. We'll go back to the other slide, and you can see just how much it has changed. And the portal is pretty deep. It's 17 meters deep there. If we dig that out, there'll be a lot of spoil to be removed. That's got to be resited somewhere, and it'll cause some quite major changes to the landscape. So our current plan is to excavate that approach cutting, but a new company, Tunnel, have approached us with a new tunneling technology to create an extension to the tunnel. And we've been up there. They are currently costing the project. They would dig down a short extension to the tunnel to basically connect it to the surface. And by doing that, it will create much less disruption and much less material to be relocated, less change at Blind Gwynfi. And we're also looking at a more conventional cut and cover, where you dig out the hole, put a steel tube in there basically to form the tunnel, then you put the material back over the top of it. So we're looking at both of those at the moment. So show you what we're planning, or our thoughts are. There's the hillside. There's the buried Rhondda tunnel with the portal. And the plan is to put an extension which brings the tunnel up to the surface. And it means the hillside remains undisrupted, much less change at Blind Gwynfi. This is the hypertunnel technique, a brief sort of summary of it. They first of all dig a pilot hole along the line that they want the tunnel to go. Nowadays you can drill round corners, quite frankly. That's sort of well-known technology used in the oil and gas industry. Then they dig a whole series of holes just above where the tunnel would be. And then they inject what they call is grout, but it's really a sort of liquid cement that will solidify the ground. It will sort of mix with the waste, the material with the soil there, and form a solid shield. Next thing, you dig the tunnel at the center out, and you put spray concrete onto the wall, which is done on many tunnels. That's a widely used technique. And then basically you've got your tunnel there. So that's the technique that they were proposing. Having one of their first prototype, one of their first tunnels, may involve a certain amount more risk, but it will be a great thing to have in Blind Gwynfi. It's something, they're based in Basingstoke. It's something they could bring people to see. And it would also be a plus point in terms of attracting other people there. And we could actually, this little bit end of the tunnel, we could get some commercial sponsorship for. Just to show some of the plans, these were drawn up by our technical subcommittee. If we have to excavate the tunnel, as our current plans show, we've got to remove all of this green and move it up to probably just above where the tunnel is now. It'll mean quite a bit of disruption and change up in Blind Gwynfi. If we simply extend the tunnel, there's much less material to be moved. We could put it above the portal, and it wouldn't change the landscape so much. It would mean that you wouldn't see the original portal, but we replace it with something that looks a bit like it, only much smaller. Now, we talked about the ownership of the tunnel. This is a key point. This was a map provided to us by your council. The blue areas show Neath Port Talbot Council owned land. That's where the tunnel buried portal is. This is the line of the tunnel, and the extension goes here. So it is 100% within Neath Port Talbot land, which means that it comes to your application comes to your planning committee. And we're hoping today that you might give it, basically you can't give us planning permission anyway, we understand that, but that you will support this application. It'll be entirely independent, entirely in Neath Port Talbot land, independent of Westminster or the Welsh government, or any sort of haggling that goes on between them over how much money they get for the rest of the tunnel. So, summary, we've been campaigning since 2015. We've had huge political support, not the least to say from Councillor Jane Jones, Nicola Davis and Scott Jones. Thank you very much. David Rees has been very much supported, so has Stephen Kinnock. Great support. We want to see if we can raise funds for a Blind Gwynfi extension independently from public funding. And the air shaft, which some of you went down to visit to get into the tunnel, that could be open for abseiling to bring visitors to the to Blind Gwynfi before the rest of the tunnel's opened even, so it can start paying for itself at that point and start getting some of the benefits even while the rest of the tunnel is being worked on. It would create huge momentum to finish the job, and it could the job could be done in stages as well. Now I've got more to say about this tentative offer of some funding already in a moment. We talked to RCT Council about this, and they said that could provide a large amount of match funding, which would be essential for most bids, especially to the Heritage Lottery Fund. So they think this is a great idea. So this is the way we are thinking of going. Now, I have to say we're still waiting for a full costed proposal from Hypertunnel. We've done some estimates of how much money it would cost with a cut and cover, putting a steel tube in there. But that remains at the moment confidential, although I'm happy to share that with your committee if need be. So, to sum up, lastly, we've had this letter since in fact, I sent this presentation from the Railways Heritage Trust. I'll just highlight a little bit of it. The Railway Heritage Trust is pleased to award a grant of £100,000 towards the reopening of the Blind Gwynfi portal of the Rhondda Tunnel. They've also offered possibly another £100,000 next year, although that needs to be confirmed in a budget that they're negotiating with National Highways. National Highways actually want to talk to us about making a big publicity coup about this. They seem to be pretty much on side. So and we've also had a meeting with Kate Breeze, some of you may know, manager or CEO of the Pennycomoith Wind Farm project community fund. They are not against giving us quite a substantial further grant. They gave us nearly £90,000 3 years ago and still regard our business case for the tunnel as one of their sort of gold standard they use for other people. So we think we can get that money together. We want your support, basically not financial support, but backing for the project. That's my presentation. Thank you very much for giving us a chance to talk to you.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. Does Mr. Mackey want to say anything further before I open it up to questions?
No, I think Tony has ticked all the boxes, shall we say. I always let Tony do the presentation because he's more involved with the technical side of it. So, but thank you, Chair.
Oh, thanks for that, Steve. And thank you, Tony. That was a very interesting presentation and very professional, I may say. I'll open it up to questions now. I'll go to Councillor Hugh James first then, please. You're on mute, Hugh.
All right, Chair.
Yeah.
First of all, Tony and both, a very, very, very good presentation. You've amazed me reading your report. It's very detailed, and I'm quite amazed actually that the tunnel is in such good nick, because it was always a lot of water each end. And Tony, I'm giving my age away. I went through that tunnel many times with my parents, both on steam trains and diesel. And It closed as early as 1962, as you know, under that dreadful beaching era. Should never have shut, but there we are. But at least the tunnel is there. And I think your plan is very, very ambitious. But what's wrong with ambition? And I think that it would lift that valley. Although I'm a Britain ferryman, I've got a great, great affection for the Upper Avon Valley, and they need all they can get. My question to you is really, and this is really after your presentation, are you getting enough support from the Rhondda end and from the MP obviously there? Are you getting enough support from the people who own the whole of the tunnel, the railway network still, and bearing in mind it is very historic. Correct me if my records are not right, it was the 5th longest tunnel on the British rail system, even above Standage. So it's got lots going for it, but I'm wondering, are you going to get that support? I'm hoping that we will look at it and support it. It's a big project, but I think it's got an opening for tourism, and it's like anything really. It's our heritage. And so, Chair, I just want to say that, and I wonder if Tony would like to respond. But a very, very good detailed presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Hugh. Tony?
Thank you, Councillor James. I think in my presentation, you saw Chris Bryant asking Grant Shapps for money. You saw Grant Shapps say he's going to offer the tunnel with some money. The one thing we've been trying to work out is what Chris Bryant was actually trying to say then. I think he said, how much?
He actually said a lot of money.
Oh, did he?
Right. Lots of money.
We've had lip readers on that one, haven't we? Good. Let's hope so. Anyway, I think things are moving in the right direction there. It's a very much a build back better, levelling up project. And if you want somewhere to an example of a place or two places that need levelling up, the Upper Avon and the Upper Rhondda Valley are probably some of the best examples anywhere in Britain. In fact, I've done a measure of the house price index by council ward, and Blaen Gwynfi and the ward, the other side, Neath, they are amongst the bottom 1% of house prices for England and Wales. So have I answered your question? Because I think things are moving in the right direction there. There's a lot going for this now.
Yes, you have to. Thank you very much, both of you, and thank you, Chair. That's quite detailed. Unfortunately, Chair, I won't be at the second part of the meeting, but it's a very detailed presentation, music to my ears, and you've done your railway knowledge. I can tell you that now. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Hugh. Councillor Sean Percy, please.
Yes, thanks, Chair. No, thanks for the presentation there, Tony. The committee will know I'm a keen cyclist, and I've been following this particular project since 2015 on social media, and I've got to say I've been quite impressed actually by the professionalism of the whole operation, because you often see campaign groups and these sorts of things come and go, but you guys have really put the work in, and it really does show, not just in the presentation but in some of the other material we've seen and what you've been putting out on social media. Unfortunately, I missed out on a chance of going down the vent shaft when I worked for Mr. Kinnock a few years ago. But perhaps that can be sorted sometime in the future, because I'd love to see the inside of the tunnel. But just on some of the issues in the presentation, really, I think a lot of this now will come down to, I suppose, how much money the UK government is willing to commit, because I think that is what can really unlock this project. We've seen your indicative costings, and it is an awful lot of money. It's not impossible, but it's quite a hill to climb, isn't it, to secure that level of funding. So I'm going to be watching with quite some interest now in terms of what the UK government are willing to commit, because I think that sort of, was it £60,000 figure is laughable, really, isn't it? And I think if I'm sure Welsh Government or whoever's looking to take on ownership is going to really want the substantial sums. So I'm excited about the project. I think it's a cracking idea. And we need to get past this next hurdle now, I think, don't we, with what the UK government are willing to offer. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that, Sean. I don't know if you want to respond. I don't think there was a question in there, Tony, so I'll move on. There's a number of hands up. Councillor Nigel, next then, please.
Thank you, Steve. And yeah, I'd like to compliment Tony really on his presentation, and for the group for their persistence in trying to take this project forward. I think that when Councillor Hugh James talks about ambition, it is really refreshing to see such ambition in our area and in our valleys, which really need some improved connectivity. So with regards to the Levelling Up Fund, I know that one of the priorities in the Levelling Up Fund was cultural investment. So when you're talking, I think that ties in when you talk about gallery space inside the tunnel. I think that even though the Levelling Up Fund is going to be replaced by the Shared Prosperity Fund, we should be keeping an eye on that, because if cultural investment is still a priority, we can focus on that. And you know, Powys were getting £7 million for a theatre. The Rhondda done fantastically well in the Levelling Up Fund, and they had £6 million for a theatre in the Rhondda. So I think that's somewhere where we should focus. I'd like to see other MPs backing up Chris Bryant. Actually, I think that Stephen Kinnock should be backing up, and Christina Rees. They're significant stakeholders in the Levelling Up Fund, and I think that we as councillors should be lobbying our MPs to get into Westminster, because really, if it's the Highway England that owns that land at present, they should be giving us a significant sum of money towards this project. I think it will benefit the Upper Avon Valley, which absolutely does need investment. It does need connectivity, and I find it quite exciting. So I fully back this project, and I wish you all the best with going forward from you. And if ever you need any help, I will be here in whatever I can do. It's really nice. Finally, I just say how pleasing it is to you of such ambition. So thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Councillor Scott Jones, then, please.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, first of all, apologies because I've had some connectivity issues, as you'll be aware of here in the Valley the last couple of days with EE. Chair, I'm going to keep it brief today, really, because you clearly know my views, and my support, for this project. I really want to take this opportunity, really, to thank Tony and Steve, and the committee that are on the tunnel for the tremendous amount of work that's gone on over time. I mean, I've had numerous meetings over recent years, and I've enjoyed the opportunity recently to visit the tunnel. I'm going to concur with a lot of what my colleague, Councillor Nigel Hunter, said. There is financial opportunities for this council to tap into. This is very, very much needed here. It's an opportunity not only to put the Avon Valley back on the map as a result of numerous closures that we faced over the last 10 years, but it's a real golden opportunity to ensure that the county borough of Neath Talbot is on the map as well. So I'm going to leave it there, Chair, other than to place on record my massive support for this project. And I'd be more interested, really, to see what other members have got to say in support of this project. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Scott. Councillor Jane Jones, please.
Thank you, Chair. Tony, fantastic presentation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I got a couple of problems with the active travel map.
Jane.
It itself isn't actually on the active travel map.
Jane,
So,
Jane, can I stop you there?
Yeah.
We've got an item on the agenda today on the active traveller for council. If you want to make reference to it, link into the tunnel, by all means, but just be mindful that we do have that agenda item later on, and you can contribute there as well, where decisions are made. But if you want to make reference to it with the Rhondda tunnel presentation, by all means, but just be mindful of that, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. So I will come back when we have the active travel map.
Yeah, but if you want to continue making reference to it with Tony and support, you're all right, are you?
We desperately need this tunnel to be open as soon as possible. To inject life back into the Upper Avon Valley. It's got to happen. I've been alongside Tony from day one, and I'll continue to be alongside him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tony, you want to make a comment on that?
I will make a comment. We've had a comment that it's going to depend on the funding package between Westminster and the Welsh Government. Fine. What we are looking at doing very seriously is making a planning application to open the portal at Blind Gwynfi ahead of all of that, so that we can get to the tunnel. We can then start to, we'd also convert the air shaft that some of you went down into an abseiling place. So you can abseil in and walk out. That will start the thing off, but we think that the momentum generated by getting one end open, getting access, will just carry the whole thing forward. It would also mean that some of the next jobs that need doing can be done once we can get vehicles in the tunnel. There's a wall that's got to be knocked down. Then there's that wooden structure, the cog, that's got to be removed. That can all be done at fairly low cost while we're gathering funds together to do the rest of the job. So we just want to get on with it.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. That's good points raised there. Councillor Nicola Davis, please.
Thank you, Chair. Marvellous presentation, a lot of information I didn't know. It's nice to see how the tunnel that you want to extend it on is going to be done. As you know, I went down there. I'm still grinning like a Cheshire cat. It's absolutely amazing. I loved every minute of it until you pretended that I got stuck in midair. I will say the interest already of people who want to abseil down there now is amazing. So, you know, it is a project that really needs to go ahead, and I fully support it. I loved every minute of it, and well done to everyone.
Thank you, Nicola. Councillor Sean Percy, you want to come back?
Yes, thanks, Chair. No, only briefly, just to thank Tony for the sort of clarification there, I suppose, on the potential kind of phasing of it. I suppose I hadn't quite appreciated that, you know, you made the reference to maybe independently fundraising that extension to the tunnel. That could potentially kind of open up a phase one, maybe some revenue generation, interest, and then, you know, but I guess the difficulty is, I suppose you'd need the ownership of the tunnel to transfer before you could do that, phase one, or is that, you're on mute, you are, Tony, so I can't hear you at the moment.
No, we don't need that, because that tunnel extension is entirely within Neath Talbot Council's land. You own it, so you've got to give us permission. The air shaft is actually within Highways, the Westminster land. So I think you could come to an agreement with them on that, just to get the air shaft as part of the deal, quite frankly. So we can get on with this, and we've had the first £100,000 towards it. I will send to Andrew Collins, who's your project manager responsible for it. I'll tell him how much our estimate of the amount of money we need to raise is. It's not an impossible amount. I won't announce that on a publicly. That's confidential, but we will make that available to you confidentially. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moon. Sean, all right? Any other member got a question? No? Just a couple from me then, Mr. Moon. I echo my colleagues' comments of trying to deliver this. Obviously, I'm not going to stray into a private report at this stage or planning, because there's a number of us on this committee who sit on the planning as well. So therefore, obviously, you would understand we're not able to make reference to any of or some of the comments, sorry, that you have made. It was interesting to thank you for that video as well, and as I said, a very professional presentation. Interesting to hear see the MP at the Rhondda there, Bryant, and the comments that were made there. Now, this is an amazing opportunity, I believe, for all partners, you know, RCT, Neath Talbot, and the private sector. And I love your plans and ideas of what could go in there. I tell you one thing that would create the tourism that happened in Port Talbot, if we could persuade Banksy to do a few artist drawings within the tunnel itself, I'm sure the tourism aspect of that would raise tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of pounds. But that's just something that I was thinking of. I would also like to take the opportunity when you're able to again go down that shaft. I'd be interested. I love a little bit of adventure and to see what is going on there. So please, if you have another opportunity, I look forward to that. One question, because I'm not going to suggest, your professionalism goes without saying, and it is partnership. All the partners, the financial aspect is key, of course, and let's hope Westminster come forward with a substantial amount of money that would kickstart other funding and match funding, as you mentioned, from the wind turbine funds and elsewhere, and public body funding. You're doing a great job, but I just wanted to ask one little question on the infrastructure of that particular valley. If tourism in its in the size we need, have you planned that in the project for infrastructure? Because the adventure park, and we don't know where we are with that, of course, and that may be also a reality up in the Avon Valley, and that's going to be tens of millions. I mean, I would assume you're already perhaps speaking to those as well, because it'll be projects that would overlap in one sense because of infrastructure for that particular site and what's planned there. So I just wondered if you had any discussions with them or planning infrastructure of how it could work from both ends, really, within RCT and Neath Port Talbot. Just a few comments from me, but I do 100% wholeheartedly support this project, and I hope Neath Port Talbot, in whatever capacity. It was interesting to hear you weren't after any finances at this stage, so I would think that's music to this authority's ears. But but anyway, I just would hopefully, that all partners would see the potential and get on board at some stage with what you are proposing. So I don't know, I do talk a lot and I do mix up my questions, but I think everybody else should have got to know me. But if you can deface on that, please, I appreciate it. Thank you, Tony.
Right, briefly to answer about infrastructure, on the Rhondda side, there is a bus turning circle in Blaencwm. There's a 20-minute bus service down the valley from within about 400 meters of the portal. So that's a great help. Our plans include a traffic-free cycle route down to Treherbert Station. We also expect that at busy times, probably weekends, people who are going to do a walk will want to do a one-way walk through the tunnel, and there will be a shuttle bus to take people back to the start. We would also like to develop something that's been very successful on the Waterford Greenway in Ireland, where they've opened a long cycle route. Hire a bike or an electric bike, maybe in Treorchy, cycle through the tunnel all the way down to Port Talbot, cycle along Aberavon Beach, and either get a shuttle bus which will take you and your bikes back to the start point over the Bulk Mountain, where there's a lovely view, back to your start point. Or if you've got an electric bike, you can go back the same way you've come. We want to try and develop that whole route, which will spread the benefits out down the valley, not only just the tunnel itself, but down the whole of that valley. And of course, you've got to remember what Richard Burton described that valley as. It's little Switzerland in Wales. And he was absolutely right when if you see it in autumn, clear, fine day with the sun shining in autumn, he was absolutely right about that. Yeah. Infrastructure, We're happy to work with you as much as we can in the sort of working through the pre-planning stage, try and get as much of that sort of bottomed out as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, and thanks for that response. I appreciate that. Right, any other member got any question? No? Can I just take this opportunity once more, Mr. Moore and Mr. Mackay, for your presentation. Very well presented, as I said, professionally done. A lot of good questions and answered properly. Hopefully, after today's meeting at the end in private, you will have more news from this authority in where we are, and I'm sure that all members have shown here that they certainly support this project. It's how it gets delivered. But your work has been tremendous, in fairness to you and your partners. I'm sure there's some missing from today that you probably could highlight, but good luck with the project. And as Nigel, my namesake, said, and other members, I'm sure we would all like to, in our own way, support this going forward in the future. So thank you for this morning's presentation. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but I'm sure you've got other things to do than listen to a boring council meeting all morning and maybe into the afternoon. So thank you.
Thank you very much for hearing our case, and it's been really nice. It's been a great joy, and it really is. It's wonderful to us, to our team who've been working away, to get so much support from you all. So thank you all so much for what you've done for us today.
No worries. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Steve. Have a nice weekend, both.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Bye.
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 Thank you and bye.
Okay, if I get back to our agenda, then the next item on the, this, just for information, this presentation is for information purposes, so we'll just note the presentation. Item 6 is the asset sponsorship update. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda, which is a verbal update of the asset sponsorship. Andrew Griffiths and Hugh Jones are in attendance to provide this update. So I will hand over to officers now, and we'll take questions after their update, please. So I don't know if Andrew or Hugh are starting. It looks like Andrew, is it? Over to you then.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Just an update on asset sponsorship. For the purposes of this meeting, the asset sponsorships I'll be updating on is the a status report on roundabouts sponsorship. You would have all seen perhaps certain roundabouts in the county borough with advert signs on, and some progress that I've made this year with a company called Clear Channel, who operate bus stops, and you've all seen the bus shelters in our area with poster advertising illuminated signs on. So just a bit of background. So like many local authorities across the UK, it's been recognised over the years that there's the potential income generation opportunities presented by assets like roundabouts, roadside verges, lighting columns with banners, etc. Some councils have had more success in selling these opportunities than others. We chose back in 2011, after a tender process, to outsource the management and the sales function of getting money onto roundabouts through providing advertising opportunities to a company in Halifax in West Yorkshire, and that company is called Immediate Solutions. Over the years, they started selling the roundabouts. The first was put up in our patch in 2012, and then we, in June 2017, we extended the contract for a further 4 years. During that time, revenues were quite matched expectations for the first few years, and then they started to drop off. Anyway, we had a contract end date that we were coming towards this year, back in the summer, and we chose to exercise, after consultation with various members and officers, to give them the 3 months notice that they needed to end that contract. And as I've recently been appointed as commercial coordinator, we felt we could do it a better job ourselves, bring it in-house and explore further opportunities, bundle up opportunities to customers and generate more income than we were receiving from the commission from Immediate Solutions. So we did that, and at the end of June, the contract expired. And since then, we've been in a situation where we've been novating contracts over for the existing sponsored roundabouts, and also putting the portfolio and the systems together to offer those opportunities to local customers. There's many benefits to operating this locally, and that's being able to read the market, to know what businesses are wanting to advertise. We can respond much quicker when something goes wrong. For instance, recently there are 2 signs out at Neath Abbey under the 465 on that big roundabout that's sponsored currently by Zoa's Ark in Neath. They have had 1 sign missing, for instance, since the summer, and weren't able to get that sorted with that company in West Yorkshire. And that is we can also factor in sort of reputational damage to the authority, because we're seen as the roundabout owner, but you know, we can't fix the problem because we've outsourced it. So there's many benefits, and also income is one of the main benefits of bringing it back in-house. So the situation as it stands today is those contracts are just about to be handed back and novated over, and I have already been in touch with potential customers and have orders lined up, and you'll be seeing more, subject to planning, of course, roundabouts being sponsored very soon around the county borough. So that's my update on the roundabout sponsorships. The other thing which comes under assets that are active at the moment, and that is our relationship with a company called Clear Channel, who sell the bus stop advertising in our patch. We own the majority of the actual structures, the bus shelters ourselves, although Clear Channel do own around 10 bus shelters. Over the years that the contract has existed with that company, we have had, in return for allowing them to put their posters on our bus shelters, we've had a reciprocal agreement where they maintain and repair any damage through vandalism, etc., to those bus shelters. I looked at it when I joined as one of the first things I did, and I thought perhaps we could get a better deal and actually have some pound signs against those assets as well. And I did a bit of research, and it would appear that other local authorities up and down the country do get commissions, but it was a situation where we had to ask for it, and so I asked for it, and so we're now in a position where we made a recommendation, and it's going through senior officers, etc., that will be re-signing a further 5-year agreement, but this time with money against it. There'll be a substantial, in my terms, amount of money, which is a set contract money, plus for every screen that they want to change from a poster site into a digital site. And digital is the way the market's going now, and everything like big hoardings, signs, etc. Everyone's going into digital signs, which offers the advertisers or the agencies a lot more control over their inventory. They can put multiple adverts across a day, for instance, depending on the morning. For instance, you might get McDonald's breakfast or whatever. But they will be giving us a set fee for an annual fee as well for every poster site that they'll turn into digital, and they've got quite an ambitious rollout for changing many of those prime location poster sites into digital screens. So I've made a recommendation, and we're moving forward on that. So that for me was a win that I'd been working on for quite a while. It took a lot to sort out, but I'm quite happy with that. and then in 5 years' time we can consider putting out to tender as well. And a neighbouring authority has done just that and parted company with Clear Channel, because they made little progress in terms of being offered money for their assets. So so I've just covered off roundabouts and the bus stops. Other assets which comes under asset management and sponsorships that are being planned is come to. I've recognised the fact that speaking to local businesses, and I have been out and talked, obviously COVID compliant, to a lot of small businesses, that there are very few opportunities for local businesses to advertise and to promote themselves. And whilst things like roundabouts is generally 1 to 3 year contract terms, the bus stop advertising, for instance, is all mainly national companies, and it's very difficult for local businesses to get on those things, and they're quite expensive as well at point of sale. We've seen quite a lot of sort of fly posters or fly banners around the area, and whilst they can be they're illegal and they shouldn't be there, etc. I can well understand why a local business wants to promote themselves, especially after the 18 months that we've just had. So I want to create smaller, short-term opportunities for local advertisers to manage that inventory and not charge the earth. We will make income from them, but I think it's part of our duty as a local authority to support local businesses and not just be with a stick. So that is, I could go on, Chair, with lots of other things that I'm working on, but that ticks the box for me in terms of an update with the key sponsorship assets that I wanted to sort of bring to everyone's attention today.
Thank you for that, Andrew. You've talked more than me.
Yeah, yeah. You set the bar high.
You set the bar high. I go to questions from members now. Thank you for that update. Councillor Hugh James first, then, please.
Chair, it's not a question to Andrew. It was a good presentation, Andrew. We know each other from your broadcasting days, and you're doing a good job. Chair, I have to apologise to the team here. I've got to leave now. I'm needed in a meeting, and Karen Jones is doing a presentation on heritage. And I think Chloe's got 1 or 2 little questions she'll pass to you. I think you got them, Chloe, on email, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes, Councillor James. Me and the chair both got your questions.
Brilliant. Well, good luck with the meeting, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you, Hugh. Enjoy your meeting. Councillor Sean Percy, then, please.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Andrew, for coming today. I brought up this topic in our forward work programme meeting because I thought the committee would want to hear some of the things you've been working on. I'm on the Income Generation panel with Andrew, and we've had a few chats, and I think you probably agree he's been doing a cracking job in whipping this sort of stuff into shape and getting some more benefits for the local authority, and as you just mentioned, working on making these things more accessible for local businesses as well. So I just want to say we'll keep up the good work, and we'll keep in touch. I know there's other things, as he said, he hasn't mentioned, lamppost advertisements, banners, Aberafon Seafront. There's a few things that he's also working on that will be of interest to members as well. But no, thanks for coming today. Thanks for the update. Yeah, we'll watch with interest how this goes.
Cheers, thanks.
Thank you for that, Sean. Councillor Nigel Hunt, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just want to say how refreshing it is to see an officer present a report that's so innovative. I think it was wonderful to hear that, Andrew, that you're taking some initiative there with the roundabouts and with the bus stops. I mean, I've got a local business. I would advertise on bus stops if it was affordable. I know lots of other small businesses would. I think it's actually really organic to get local businesses on a local transport, on public transport. I think it's quite exciting, and we can even lead the way. So as I said, I just think it's really refreshing to hear that we're getting more income generation. I salute you, man. It's really good to hear. So that's all I want to say, and I'd like to be informed going forward. Good work.
Thanks. I'll get you a rate card for advertising. Nice one.
Thank you for that, Nigel. Yeah. Any other member got a question for Andrew? Andrew, can I just say then, just echo Sean's and Nigel's comments. I mean, you're doing obviously an excellent job. Income generation is key for the authority, right across different, places within the authority, and you are doing a fabulous job. Can I just ask, when I spoke to Nicola, I'm going back when we did sponsorships and roundabouts and so forth, is that it was interesting that whether roundabouts could be split to income generate even more with advertising. I do see it in other authorities, a number of different companies on these roundabouts, but also just from your expertise, obviously you're a professional at what you do, is the health and safety risks, because as you know as well, you mentioned the posters going up on lampposts because they just do it anyway, but we also get them over the bridges. Banners are dangled, which is a distraction and could cause serious concerns and issues for motorists. So I just wondered, within your remit and role, everything's taken into account. Obviously, I wouldn't suggest you wouldn't, but I just wondered, is there potential for more income generation from sponsorship in other ways? And I suppose you were only touching on a brief update, but it'd be interesting to know your thoughts, because the authority needs a lot more money, really.
It's so for just to cover off the health and safety and stuff, you're absolutely right. There's random signs and stuff. They've got all sorts of issues. If somebody puts a banner up and it blows off a bridge and it goes on and it causes an accident, I mean, who's liable? I mean, it is the proverbial minefield, but we are working on a policy document which covers all this off, because we can't at 1 minute it's the enforcement of illegal sort of signage goes hand in hand with having the opportunities to offer, because I see those as illegal signs as leads, really, sales leads, because they've obviously, the businesses who've taken it upon themselves just to put a random sign up because they want extra business. So instead of just going in and saying, yeah, you've got to take that sign down, we've got to say, take that sign down, but here's the opportunity that we've got for you if you want to, play by the book. And I think it's important to have those assets to present to people as well. You never get away from the people who just will do that, but it's a way of controlling it and having a consistent coherent policy which all parties then can understand and we can refer people to. As far as extra revenue opportunities, there are endless opportunities of creating revenue. I'm from a broadcast media background where we talk about reach in audience terms. A local authority has 100% reach of its audience, of its residents. So they're all consumers. It's finding ways to connect with them, and we as an authority have lots of touch points, and it's being able to look at ways we can monetize those touch points. It's not just income generation, but it's also we're aiding communication and between local businesses and local customers. It goes from I focused at the start on the sort of the sort of easy wins that I consider them, and that is like outdoor advertising, screens in car parks, etc. And I'm talking to sort of partners who are interested in putting in tenders for those sort of opportunities. But I think as an authority, we can create those opportunities ourselves and sell them ourselves. These big 48-sheet advertising sites, some of them have gone out of ownership of previous companies. The pandemic has had a massive impact on outdoor advertising, and it's only now trying to sort of get itself back together. But there's certain sites in our authority that are existing sites that have been abandoned, that those companies don't want them anymore. We can take them over and sell them to local businesses. We can almost become like a little media agency, really, but it's putting money back into the community and supporting local businesses. There's lots of other things I've got, and that is like with the theatres, Margam Park sponsorship packages, with corporate packages, etc. And there's a huge opportunity coming our way when that zip wire gets put up in Margam Park as well. It is I'm really sort of enthusiastic and positive. It was a tough act to follow with the guys from the tunnel, but you saw the enthusiasm there. I think you've got to have that enthusiasm and belief and just plow through some of these things and get over the hurdles.
Thank you for that, Andrew. I have seen the cabinet member for finance, Carol Clement Williams, wants to come in, but Sean, you had your hand up before I bring her in, just in case you want to pick up on something you may say. I notice you're taking it down now, so did you want to come back with something?
Yeah, no, only really briefly, Chair. I guess we're touching on some of the benefits of this. We've talked about income generation, benefits to local businesses. Andrew's mentioned communication as well, which is something that's really important. There's other knock-on benefits. I just wanted to sort of touch on briefly. This is also an opportunity for people to get a sense of place as well and community, because if you've got local businesses, things you recognise in your environment, and I come back to the Aberafan Seafront one, we've got banner spaces all along the lampposts on Aberafan Seafront. If you've got attractions on there, if you've got local businesses on there, that does improve the local environment as well. We're talking about tourism, we're talking about branding, like all these things linked together. So even if put all the other benefits one side, it also smartens the place up, makes it look a bit more slick, a bit more professional, and like I said, you've got a sense of place, sense of community. If we see one of Nigel's banners up, that's a local business. It really does have those other benefits. So I just wanted to throw that in to the mix, because it's been a very positive discussion. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, Sean, good points. Cabinet member then, Carol, please.
Thanks for your indulgence, Chair. I just wanted to say how hard Andrew has worked at all this. There's an awful lot of work goes into it, and we were full steam ahead with this, and then COVID hit and it kind of got put on the back burner. Andrew was whisked away to media, but we're back up and running now, so we would have been much further ahead with all of this had it not been for that blip. Andrew is extremely passionate, as you can probably see, about what he does. He's really good at it. It's the little touches, like we took some signs down that were illegal, and the person concerned contacted the authority for his signs. Andrew literally went out himself to meet the business owner. Excuse me, my cat's fighting. He went out himself to speak to the business owner. The business owner was really impressed, because he went out to ask him what we could do for him, as well as give him his signs back. It's a touch that will improve these people coming to advertise with us. That it's the first time, I think you said, Andrew, that he said that anybody from the authority had actually taken time to come out and speak to him. So yes, there's loads of other opportunities. Somebody was asking about earlier. I walked into the office one day and said to Andrew, dog bins. You remember? And we were going to try and get a local pet company to sponsor our dog bins, so to generate income there. But it's not just about generating the income, it's saving as well. When Andrew first came, he realised very quickly that each individual department were buying newspaper space separately. He came in and renegotiated for everybody. So if anybody in the authority now wants to put some something into the paper, he's got the best deal he possibly can for us. So the work he's putting in both Neath Neath, the Knoll and Margam. It's so much work and it just a presentation like this, it might not sound like much, but he's spent so much time dedicated to this work. I just wanted to thank him for all of his work. There's lots more, and I know he's going to be enthusiastic to come back and speak to this committee later to update you on what else he's been doing. So thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Chair, for your indulgence.
No, thank you, Carol. I'm sure all members in this committee and across the authority would echo those comments. We do know how hard all our officers work in their individual roles, that's for sure. No other member got a question? Before I move on then, Andrew, I was thinking as well, maybe those large balloons up in the sky, I have noticed them previously just off the motorways there from building merchants. I mean, maybe you could investigate that too, because there's a huge potential money to be gained from those, I suppose. But I'll leave it there.
Can I just thank?
Sorry?
That's a good call. I haven't got that on my list. It's going.
Here we are.
I think they're
Put
called
it on your
blimps.
list. Put that on your list. Yeah. Thank you, Andrew, and it was an important update, and thank Sean as well for he brought this to this committee. Sometimes we miss what our roles are in various committees, and it's important we do cover everything, and what you have presented with the verbal update is important and really well presented, and we got a better understanding of where we are with asset sponsorship, etc. So thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.
So if I move on then to item 10 is the pre-decision scrutiny. So we are now, members, moving to the Cabinet Board agenda for the pre-decision scrutiny. And the first item is where Sean, I believe, will have to declare an interest and leave the meeting. So Chloe, it's the Active Travel Act 2013 review of the MPT Active Travel. So if you can tell me when Sean has left.
Yep, and Councillor Percy, I'll call you back in when the item is finished.
Brilliant, thank you.
There we are. Right, this report. Oh, you haven't gone yet, sorry. Right.
He's gone now, Chair, yeah.
Thank you, Chloe. This report is included as a supplement to the Cabinet Board agenda. So if members could please refer to the document. The reporting officers are Kerry Morris and Lana Bainan. So I'll go over to them. I mentioned earlier that Lana wanted to also bring forward some further information. So I'll go straight to Lana now for that information, and as we go through this particular item then. Over to you, Lana, please.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. So this report then is in relation to active travel, the authority's network map, and it's to consider the consultation responses received to the 12-week statutory consultation that's just been undertaken, and to approve the revisions to the active travel network map. Now, as Chair mentioned, I wanted to clarify with members that even though all the routes have been incorporated into the maps, and you should have all seen those because they were too big to add to the appendix, they were on SharePoint. We focused our time on the maps, but apologies, we omitted the 17 routes that came from the 12-week statutory consultation within Appendix 3, which is the classification and prioritisation list of routes, okay? But we've sent them through to Jane, and maybe possibly Chloe has them as well. Jane said that she was going to add them to the chat function, and then they would also be appended to the minutes of this meeting. But as I said, members would have seen all the routes because they were on the map. So apologies for the omissions, members. But they should all be with you shortly. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, Lana, they are on the chat at the moment.
Oh, they're on the chat. Lovely.
Yeah,
oh,
so members can
Jane.
pick them up there.
Okay, thank you. So then the next item then was with regard to the consideration of the draft classification and prioritisation of the active travel routes, and we're going out for a 2-week consultation from the 7th of December to the 21st of December, consulting on the classification and prioritisation. And there's also, we ask that members also agree to, because there's such a tight timeline between the end of the consultation and when we have to submit to Welsh Government, we've asked if members would agree to delegating the final decision of the classification and prioritisation of the routes following the consultation to the Head of Planning, Kerry Morris, and the Cabinet member, Councillor Annette Wingrave, for Regen and Sustainable Development. So I think that covers it all, Chair. I'm more than happy to go into detail on any part of the report and answer any questions that members may have.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lana. It became confusing with regards to the size of them, sending them out in the first instance and trying to get them, but fair play to Democratic Service officers and Chloe in particular. I'm sure all members are well aware of the information they needed for this meeting this morning. So I'll go straight to questions now. Councillor Sonia Reynolds, I'll bring in first then, please. Over to you, Sonia, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for allowing me to attend the meeting. I've been very involved in encouraging my community to getting involved with the consultation that we've just had out, and there's an awful lot of interest in my community, and my community, along with some other Valley communities that I noted, were did a lot of responses to the consultation and were well represented with quite strong feelings about having paths available. I then looked at page 88 to page 111, the prioritisations of the paths, and all the high prioritisations appear to be in population centres that are often very well catered for, and have paths and availability and buses and other means of transport. I'd like to sort of argue for all valleys, and I can only talk about particularly my own because I know it well enough to do so. But we have, for example, the path that we really want, which is down the A474, a dangerous road. Young people go to college but can't get back during the day because the buses aren't available. So they get there in the morning, they may only have one lecture, they're stuck there until the bus comes back late at night. They've got no option to use active travel, and they can't connect up with the bus routes in Pontardawy, because if we had a path down, you could go down and take buses from Pontardawy and then come back up again. The way the prioritisation is done conflicts with other policy developments. We're getting electric bikes given to our communities to connect in with travel hubs by one arm of the Welsh Government, and then we get the guidance for the prioritisation, which indicates that valleys are not a priority. And so we've got these electric bikes, but our young people and our workers can't use them and can't get down to the main travel hubs and really connect in and use active travel options. So my view is, and I've had a brief conversation with Lana, who was really helpful. My view is very clearly that the guidance is just guidance. It's just that. And I realise there's a balance to be made between whether we can get the funding that we might bid for this or not. So we have to really be very clear about why we might change or not abide directly to that guidance. But we can step outside the guidance if we believe there are needs in our community. And I would like to ask if we can consider doing that, please, in order to meet needs in our more rural and valley communities. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you for that, Sonia. Lana, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Yes, the report touches upon the prioritisation matrix, and as I explained this week to Councillor Reynolds, that the Welsh Government guidance sets out there's algorithms automated in a GIS system, so it's a mapping system, and it basically looks, there's a number of criteria such as distance to school, health facility, jobs, leisure facility, as Councillor Reynolds says, population density. So they've been automatically generated, high, medium and low, but as I explained to Councillor Reynolds, it is an indicative prioritisation. And following our conversation, I had a conversation with Kerry as well, Kerry Morris, and also I spoke to the Welsh Government yesterday. And I explained the situation we're in and whether this can obviously be changed. And what they told me was that it is a tool and that it is not an end game. That was the quote that I took from the meeting. So we've now got a 2-week consultation whereby we'll indicate the strength of opinion. So we'll be taking on board what the community are saying with regard to the prioritisation. And obviously, if members agree that Kerry Morris and in conjunction with Councillor Wingrave will look at that prioritisation. But there will be another sort of assessment again, which is a much more in detail assessment that looks at things like, has the route got planning permission? What about land ownership, impacts on biodiversity? So there's a much more detailed and robust assessment then after this initial one. And as you know, when funding comes in annually, Amanda Phillipson, Dave Griffiths' team will be looking at these bids as well and undertaking that assessment. So basically, it is indicative, okay? And I'm sure Kerry might want to say more now because we were thinking of another exercise that we could undertake so that we can review all of our routes and prioritise them moving forward. I'm sure Kerry will add to that.
Thank you, Lana. Kerry, over to you then, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, Lana's given a very comprehensive answer there, so I'm only going to really just add a little bit to that. And just to pick up on Councillor Reynolds' initial question, I think there is scope to add in sort of strength of sort of feeling, if you like, local need, and I think that's very much what this additional sort of 2-week window is hopefully going to achieve. As I said, I mean, Lana mentioned that they are extremely tight timescales and deadlines. So it's ideally we would have liked to go on a little bit longer, but unfortunately the deadlines are coming towards us thick and fast. So it is an important few weeks ahead in terms of further comment from communities in terms of identifying those particular routes that may stand out, particularly in the valley areas. I mean, you're quite right to flag, and we've had this discussion many times around the active travel agenda. I think historically, well, since the Act came in 2013 up to this point, I think it's fair to say that the focus of the funding tends to be to the more built-up areas like the town centres, the city centres, and we've had many discussions over the course that when Welsh Government issue funding for those funding bids, invariably, the big cities like Cardiff, Newport, Swansea, perhaps understandably get the lion's share of the funding because that's where the biggest impact of active travel can be achieved. But I think we have a role as a council, I think, to identify where we can make those gains, particularly with our sort of more, in relative terms, isolated communities within the valleys. And I think we've made conscious efforts through the iterations of the plan, or the maps I should say, to try and better connect our valley communities, because as I say, the nature of the lie of the land, they're very much elongated, and we are attempting as much as possible to better connect those communities. So what I would ask members to do, as I say, we will be going out to consultation, so to identify that to their local communities, to signpost that we are putting out this additional opportunity for comments, and those that come in, we can certainly feed that into the process. But as Lana has said, this is just an indicative initial assessment of the prioritisation list, and there will be a much more detailed, assessment process to be undertaken. Hopefully, once the maps are submitted to Welsh Government and we have ministerial approval, it is then up to us as a council then to implement those maps. And as part of that, whether it be through development, either directly or indirectly through development schemes, through Section 106 agreements, or indeed through successful funding bids that have been submitted on an annual basis. So, Yeah, as I said, you know, I can certainly understand and appreciate the concerns that have been raised, and you know, I can see a number of members nodding in terms of the comments that Councillor Reynolds made, and they are understandable concerns. But you know, there is a mechanism to review this list. As I said, it is just indicative, and hopefully we can move that agenda forward from this point. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kerry. Councillor Reynolds, want to come back?
I think that's they're doing their best to accommodate the need, and I think it's a question of galvanizing our communities one more time. The only issue with a further consultation is what they're going to say to me is, well, I've already responded to this twice. So you know, and people get jaded. They don't believe anything's going to happen. But I'll go again. Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Sonia. I'm sure we relate, especially Valley councillors will relate to some of the comments you have made. Councillor Jane Jones, then, please.
Thank you, Chair. I second Sonia and everything she said. We just sat through a presentation of the Rhondda Tunnel Society, wonderful plans, but yet we're not on the active travel map. All down to population, like you said, Kerry, it's a disgrace, to be honest with you. And you won't get people to fill forms in or make applications. It's all down to the members. So that's my biggest, yeah.
All right. Thanks, Jane.
Thanks,
Kerry,
Jane.
you want to respond? Or are you finished, Jane? Sorry, did I cut you short? Oh, you're all right. Kerry, do you want to respond to that, please?
Yeah, certainly, Chair. Yeah, thank you for that comment, Councillor Jones. I mean, I have had many conversations with Tony Moon over the years. You know, not just this current, you know, or these emerging new iteration of the maps, but certainly previous maps that we've had in place. But as I've explained to Tony many times, and I think he does understand. You know, he's obviously frustrated, but he does understand the position. You know, active travel does have a very specific meaning in Wales. You know, it is very much about sort of short distance, purposeful journeys to shops, to schools, to retail, to education. And I think Tony might have mentioned it in his presentation this morning, is that, you know, the Rhondda Tunnel is very much more tourism related. And, you know, it's on that basis, it's extremely difficult to justify based on the criteria and how the Act is written. It's very difficult to justify the inclusion of routes that are specifically and arguably only sort of tourism recreational related, because they don't then link, they don't align with, you know, the idea and the underlying principles of active travel, and that's the difficulty. Again, I appreciate the frustration and understand the concern that you have, and you know, Councillor Hunt, as the chair, you know, mentioned it, you know, in part of the discussion earlier. You know, we've got, you know, fingers crossed, we've got the Avon Valley Adventure Resort coming forward.
Yes.
You know, we as a consequence of that, there might be further opportunities in the future to I suppose bolster the argument for such sort of schemes, because obviously there'll be employment generated at these locations. So it's not insurmountable in the longer term, but certainly currently at the moment, as I said, it is very, very difficult to justify its inclusion on the maps because, as I said, it doesn't meet the criteria. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kerry. All right, Jen.
Yes, thank you, Kerry. Let's use this poster then, shall we?
Thank you, Jane. Councillor Nigel Hunt, then, please.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I just want to back some of what Kerry said there, actually, because I've been in this committee for a couple of years and we've had reports presented to us in previous years, and members have in the past looked at how well we performed as a county in comparison with the other 21 authorities in Wales, and we've expressed disappointment. Of course, we know that our staffing levels, Lana's pretty much on her own. I think that there should be more help. We should have more officers on the active travel route myself. I have to, you know, I understand the frustration in the valleys, but the priorities there are for places of work, for the criteria is for shorter journeys, and we've been told this in the past. Now, I feel like you're looking at me as somebody who's I'm in a deprived ward in an urban ward, and we've been cut off in Newbridge Road Bridge. There's huge feeling here. I don't have to stir up my community about it. It affects everyone's lives, really. Anyone who cycles in Talbot will has something to say about Newbridge Road Bridge. It's awful what it's doing to us. It's forcing us down the A4241. Which is a border. That's the boundary for my ward, right? There was a cyclist fatality last year on the A4241, and we are forcing all my daughters. They have to go over that, So we are frustrated, and I have sympathy for the Valley communities, but it's not like we're having massive investment on this active travel route, and there's a lot of feeling in the towns. You must understand this, that in the urban wards, we are really screaming for this. I don't have to stir my community up. It's already stirred. So I think that really some of the Valley communities should actually have some sympathy for us on this issue. And, I'm disappointed. One of my schemes I really think is important is only on a medium priority. It's only a 200-yard strip from the A4241 to close to St. Joseph's School. It will shorten the journey of a lot of school children and a lot of residents. So, I think that we're not asking for too much here, but what we do need is, as a county, to do better, as an authority to do better. And I think we really should be pushing for more support for officers like Lana, who's doing a fabulous job. But I'm sure that if she had more help around her, we would achieve more. So that's how I feel on this anyway. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Nigel. Kerry, you want to come back on some of those points?
Yeah, I'll come back quickly on a couple of those points. Just on the resources issue. Yeah, completely agree, Councillor Hunt. It is a big issue. I think we are a little bit unique in Neath Talbot in the sense that in terms of delivering the active travel function, we've got it split over two services at the moment. The planning service, which Lana leads up, the planning policy service, they're dealing with sort of, as I said, the strategic side of things in terms of the development of the maps, whereas Dave Griffiths' service in engineering and transport, they deal with the delivery and implementation. As I said, we're slightly unique because in the vast majority of other local authorities across Wales, active travel is delivered in one service, and predominantly that's within sort of the engineering and transport section. So we have started discussions internally about what can we do better internally. Do we need to restructure, realign the delivery of the active travel agenda? Because I think we all recognise that since the agenda was brought in, as I say, in 2013, it has developed significantly. There's much more work involved now than there was when the Act initially came in. So we do recognise the points that you've raised, Councillor, and there are discussions ongoing at the moment. We're not quite there yet in terms of establishing exactly what direction we need to go, but it is very much on our agenda to put ourselves in a better position going forward to deliver on this agenda. And just finally on the point, as I said, members are quite rightly flagging issues in their own wards. I think the bottom line, as members will understand, there is only ultimately a finite pot of money available from the Welsh Government. So whilst we will continue to engage and work hard to tap into those funding streams, what we can't also overlook is the role that developers have to play in this. And when substantial schemes come forward, we need to see whether there are opportunities to either have routes and links sort of delivered directly as part of those schemes, or indeed through Section 106 financial contributions. So there is more than one route to deliver this, and we are very much looking at all opportunities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kerry. Nigel, all right?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And thank you, Kerry.
Anybody else? I don't see any hands up.
Chair,
right.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know about Hughes.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that now, Chloe. Yeah, so my question, Hughes rolls into a bit of mine anyway. So Hughes' question was, Kerry, basically, and Lana, is that you touched on it, the funding from Welsh Government. Is there a programme of continued funding? Is it a bidding process basically going forward every year? Is the active travel funding there? Is it there for years and years and years? Have they given you a time scale that they may alter it or change it going forward? So it'll roll into what I was going to ask, and I can't do it as well as Councillor Reynolds. She's sort of covered everything that I would have said. I mean, Lana knows this from other meetings, and we keep going. I suppose you've answered it to a certain degree, is that I wonder sometimes, is it officer-led up in Welsh Government or politically led? Because it gets difficult. And when it gets to us as Neath and Talbot, how do we prioritise? We look at the charts, and a number of members have mentioned it on priorities. And I just wondered, you mentioned Annette and others, that you'll be looking at other ways of deliverance. And I agree with that. I think there's opportunities with wind farms in the valleys, perhaps to go match funding to deliver certain projects. In active travel, I'm sure that can be achieved, and the same up in Oincloyn and Severn. I mean, I mentioned previously we got the Rail of Excellence and wind turbine money up there. So there are potentials in delivering it in a different way. But if we get back to the report and how they laid out, you know, the Seven Sisters, we are being parochial. That's been there over 10 years. It stays where it is. What I'm suggesting is that as we deliver, it's about sharing it across the county borough, looking at smaller, less money projects, delivering them, tick boxes. That one's done, you know, before, but instead of moving into the larger ones, which may come along again, and they'll override the smaller ones because of the rules and regulations from Welsh Government. So I don't know if you want us as politicians to lobby Welsh Government and saying, hang on a minute, you need to change your criteria so that you do deliver to all the wards where members are quite rightly mentioning what they have today. So those are sort of where I am, because it's quite right that two members have just mentioned the frustration is, and you know, Lana, how good Crynant responded, and they haven't got anything. And the point is, so if we are going to listen to our consultation, where does that leave us if we can't feed that into the system so that things get done in particular wards? But yeah, you've heard this all from me before. You know, I'm going to continue to say it because it's important that decision makers, if it's us as a council, if Welsh Government said, here's your money, you as an authority decide how you want to spend it, then we can have those meetings and debates here. But I take on board all the points you've raised on how it is. I'm not suggesting, you know, that you're not doing a professional job, as I've said earlier. And Lana, I take my hat off to you with the size of your team. You're doing an absolutely amazing job for Neath and Talbot. It's just that forgive us, but we are what we are, parochial, and we would like to see a little bit of that happening in our own particular wards. As Nigel just mentioned, even the urban wards are obviously part of what we do. So just that was me summing up sort of, and if you want to respond to a couple of those points, Kerry, I thank you for that. Cheers.
Yeah, I'll come back on a couple of the points. I think going back to the start in terms of the funding, I think yes, I'm pretty confident to say yes, funding will very certainly continue, and the likelihood is that the pot of monies that will be made available for the active travel agenda will likely increase. I think Lee Waters in particular, the member of the Senate who obviously the portfolio of this particular agenda item is very much driven and is very keen to see this roll out more extensively across Wales. So yes, I mean, and it is, you know, active travel is very, very much at the heart of a lot of Welsh Government policy. You know, we see it with Future Wales, the development plan, the national development plan. So it's very much embedded in everything that the Welsh Government is pushing out. So I don't think, you know, the money's going to dry up anytime soon. But having said that, you know, it is a finite pot ultimately. And there's a lot of authorities across Wales that are going to be fighting over the same pot. So you know, picking up on your point, Chair, about, you know, lobbying members of the Senate, absolutely. I think the more lobbying that goes on in terms of, you know, a more equal share of the money, perhaps is perhaps a way that the situation ultimately can certainly be improved. But I think, you know, equally, there's a role for us as officers to make sure that, you know, when we put those funding bids in, you know, the right narrative is put in there to support those bids, so that ultimately, you know, a broader share of the finances can be achieved locally. Thank you, Chair.
No, thanks for that, Kerry. Lan, are you okay? Yeah. Okay. Before I bring the cabinet member in, any other members, can she pick up on anything else then? No? Okay, then over to Councillor Annette Wingriff then, please, cabinet member for Regen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I know Lana will probably speak on the LDP review, and she's going to hear this again. I will say just once, Lana, for the two. Lana works incredibly hard. You know, she covers a lot of areas within under my portfolio. Excuse me. But you know, Neath Talbot officers are very good at getting funding out of Welsh Government. They're very good at what they do. We probably get more than our fair share actually from Welsh Government. And I understand what you say about lobbying, Steve, but you know, our officers do an excellent job. And Lana does so much work, it's unbelievable. I'm often saying to her, how are you doing this again? Is this part of you as well? And I just like to thank her and all the team for the work they do. They're absolutely brilliant. And I don't want anybody to put any dark clouds over that. They're absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much.
No, thanks, Annette. And I'm sure we all echo that. That goes without saying. I think I did mention it anyway. So, but thanks, Annette. Okay, there's no other member indicating. So there's a recommendation for this item on page 10. There are 4 separate recommendations. However, I will ask for a proposal and seconder for them all in their complete entirety. So can I have a member of the committee to propose, please?
I'll do that, Chair. Happy to move.
Thank you, Rachel.
Second, Chair.
There we are. You've got that, Chloe?
Yep, I've got that. Thanks, Chair.
Can you now call Councillor Percy back in to the meeting?
Yep, I'll just do that now. 1 second.
Thank you.
Chloe, do you want me to do it? Are you okay?
I'm doing it now.
Okay.
And Councillor Percy's back in the meeting, Chair.
Welcome back, Sean.
Thanks.
There we are. A nice little break there for you. Right, the next item on the agenda wasn't to be scrutinised, but as Councillor Nigel Hunt indicated, he had a question on the key performance indicators, Q2. I will go to Nigel for his question, and Simon and Kerry, if may answer it between them, depending on the question. So over to you, Nigel, please.
Thank you, Steve. It's regarding the breaches. It's on page 36, and it's the number of PM10 breaches in air quality management area in Talbot. It says that the actual in 1919-20 was 4, 2021 was 20 was 5. But then it's saying 17 and 18. Has it risen in 2021 to 22 to 17? I don't quite understand that. Are we breaching more? That's what I want to know. And is there anything about the polycarbons, the other pollution, the one that's more carcinogenic?
Thank you, Nigel. Kerry, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'll just briefly come back, just explain. Yeah, the actual target of exceedances each year annually, Councillor Hunt, is 35, right? So that figure that you see in the report of 18, that's effectively half-year target.
Okay.
So the 17 does indicate that we are still below target, so that's good from that perspective. But as you've quite rightly pointed out, you know, we are experiencing more exceedances this year than we did in comparison to the previous year. Now, I have spoken to officers about why that is, and they've recently had a meeting with the Welsh Government on this particular issue. And what the breach day reports are showing is that the likely source of the breaches are from Tata. So the Welsh Government have requested that NRW, who are, as you will no doubt be aware, Councillor, you know, they're the regulator of the Tata operation. The Welsh Government have asked NRW to investigate what the potential increases could be related to. The investigation is ongoing. There are no obvious reasons that we've been notified of at this stage, but what NRW have possibly suggested is that it could be down to the fact that production has reduced on the site, and that can sometimes cause more sort of fugitive emissions from the stockpiles. So Tata have been asked specifically to look to treat those stockpiles to reduce, if that is indeed the potential source. And there are also, as we've been made aware, there are also parts of the operation that are coming sort of close to sort of improvements or replacement or renewal. So again, moving forward, that could also no doubt improve the situation. So, it is being closely monitored. As I said, we are slightly below target at the moment, so we are still within the targets that have been set. So we haven't broken that barrier yet, but it is a concern that we are sort of having more exceedances this year, but it will certainly be sort of closely monitored through quarters 3 and 4 to see where we are at the end of the reporting year. You'll be aware that we've got the vortex sensors located around that the pilot study is currently underway. So if that trial does prove successful, we'll probably have a better understanding from that pilot as to perhaps where the localized pollution is, and can possibly then assist as part of that investigation going forward. So I hope that perhaps covered the question that Councillor Hunt has. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kerry. All right, Nigel.
Yeah, I just, if I could, the polyaromatic hydrocarbons, that's not mentioned in it this year, Kerr. Are we going to have that report at a later date, or?
Yeah, it's the PAHs aren't part of. We don't have any KPIs associated with that. It's the PM10s that are reported in the KPIs. We do on an annual basis prepare a local air quality report, and that is available. And we can certainly forward you the latest information from that report, Councillor Hunt, that you can have a look at. As I said, it's we are seeing improvements year on year. So again, that's a positive report. But I'll be happy to forward you that report, Councillor.
Yeah, because I feel that that's equally as important, actually, the PAS, because of the nature of it. So yeah, I'd be grateful for that, Kerry. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Nigel. Before we bring in Sean, Annette, you want your hand up and took it back down? Did you want to come back?
No, I just on the last one. I had a job getting to go off, Steve.
Oh, right, that's all right then. Councillor Sean Percy, then, please.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chair. Just to follow on, really, I'm part of the Tata Steel Consultative group, and we look at these sorts of ongoing issues with Tata and NRW and our air quality section on a quarterly basis. I think we've got a meeting next week coming up to look over this. I see Rachel nodding there. So this is something we've been monitoring as part of that process as well, Nigel. Obviously, that's a closed group. It's not a public meeting, but we'll be asking some questions there, because what we do find in that group is that we do get some quite helpful, candid responses from NRW. They do go over the issues they are currently monitoring, they're currently scrutinising in Tata Steel, what actions have been taken. And for example, the stockpile issue Kerry mentioned is something we've discussed quite a lot, actually, in that forum. Me being in Sandfields East, we're very near the stockpiles, and we do get a lot of the lift-off issues there. So yeah, I think that meeting's next week, and we'll definitely be asking some questions of NRW then to see how their investigations are going. So I just wanted to add that follow-up there. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you for that information, Sean. Nigel, all right now?
Yeah, I'm okay, Steve. I'll probably speak to Sean outside of this, if he can ask a question for me.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you for that, Nigel.
All right. Thanks.
No indications. Chloe, I was going to, this item is for information, and we just need to note the report. But did you indicate you were looking at? I see Annette got her hand up again, but I'll bring you in first because you messaged me and I can't find it. Sorry.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine, Chair. This is just for monitoring purposes, so the committee just need to note it.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. I had that there in my report anyway. But over to Annette, Cabinet Member, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just on Nigel Hunt's comment there about any questions, I'm actually the Chair of Tata Steel Joint Committee. If you've got any questions, Nigel, just send them to me and make sure that they're dealt with.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Annette. Remiss of me to mention that. I should have said that myself, but Sean's there as well. So there we are. So there we are. This item, as I said, is for information, and we just need to note it. Item 8 is the Scrutiny Forward Work Programme. So we now go back to the Scrutiny agenda to look at the Forward Work Programme. It is attached for information for
Chair,
members.
sorry,
Yeah.
we've got other items on the Cabinet Board agenda.
Oh, sorry, I've jumped down. My fault. Yeah.
Is item 10.
Yes, transforming towns.
The LDP, local
LDP
development
first,
plan
isn't it?
first. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. I lost track of the blue and the black there. Yeah, apologies. The Neath Talbot Replacement Local Development Plan 2021-2036. Reporting officers are Kerry and Lana again. Obviously, if you've got anything to add before I go, I'll go straight to questions. Over to both of you, unless you want me just to go straight to questions.
Yeah, nothing to add, Chair.
No.
Happy to go straight to questions, yeah.
There we are.
Endorse that, Chair.
Yeah, there we are. Sean, you indicated in pre-briefing first, so Councillor Percy then, please, on the LDP.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I was just trying to find my my place in the document, but I don't think I can quite find it now. But I think I can make my comment anyway. Yeah, the only thing I wanted to pick up on was, and I think this is something we perhaps discuss maybe in the seminar, was around the community engagement side of things, and sort of balancing the online and the in-person agenda on that. And all I wanted to do was kind of flag up, there is a line in there, I think, isn't there, that says we can have sort of, I forget the term used, to some sort of in-person engagement where appropriate. And I was just pleased that that is in there. And I think that gives us sufficient flexibility then to target perhaps where there's geographical areas where we maybe the demographics are not very well connected, or I just wanted to flag that up and just say I'm glad it's in there, thank you, because I think that allays lots of our concerns really, and it just gives us that flexibility, I think, as things crop up. If we get a particular issue, something is brewing, we can, as appropriate, put those measures, put those engagement activities in place. So I just wanted to flag it up and thank the officers for making sure that was in there. Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. Over to you, Kerry.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just very, very quickly responding to that. I think the one thing that this pandemic has taught is that we've got to be nimble on our feet and be flexible. I think that, you know, things do change quite quickly. So I think the fact that we've built in that flexibility within the delivery agreement will ensure that, you know, whatever the circumstances at any given time, we'll be doing the right thing going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Kerry. Any other member got a question? Chloe, I've seen what I've done. I lost a page. And technology is at its best, but I lost the page, so I'm back on track now. And Councillor Nigel, please.
Thank you, Steve. I'm on item 10. Is this the consultation with somebody writing about Cumberland Boroughs and the HMOs? Am I on the right?
We're on the replacement local development plan, we are.
Yeah, so I kind of agree with HMO. I feel that Swansea is a different policy to us. And I was wondering, is there going to be a change in our policy? Because I feel, particularly in my ward, we're having HMOs and we just can't stop them from coming, and we've got issues and they're added into the issue. So is there anything planned about HMOs going forward?
Okay. Chloe, can I just, thanks for that, Nigel, a minute. Given the sensitivity of HMOs and they usually about planning. Now, I just want to be clear, we haven't got an officer here today, legal, have we? There's nobody in the meeting.
No, there's no one from legal today.
Right. I just want to be very cautious in, even with, unless an officer feel they can respond to that question. Otherwise, you know.
Councillor Hunt, if you do feel that you want to have some legal advice, there is no reason why we couldn't contact Craig, and you could just sort of pause during the meeting for a couple of minutes if you do feel you want the advice, and we could get it from Craig if officers aren't able to answer you.
Yeah, that's right. And I don't want to put an officer in a position that they're not able to freely answer the question. But, you know, it is part of the LDP, of course, and Nigel's quite right to ask it. But I do need legal advice on on where I stand, and Councillor Percy really as Vice Chair of Planning also. So I don't know if you can get me that, and perhaps we'll come back to your question, Nigel, if other members got questions. And there's Kerry. I mean, I don't know if you can go around the subject. I don't think
I think I think I can, Chair. Rather than ask or sort of answer the direct question about the topic, I think it's all I can perhaps say to give some reassurances that, you know, the LDP review will be comprehensive. It will look at every single topic that the LDP covers. It will also look at any policy areas that we don't actually have policy framework coverage for. Now, if there is evidence, obviously members will be aware that the LDP is backed up or will be backed up by a significant amount of evidence. If that evidence suggests that a policy is required, then we are duty then bound to develop that policy accordingly so that there is an appropriate policy framework in place. So that would be the same for all different topic areas, in addition to the specific policy area that Councillor Hunt did raise.
Nigel, are you happy with that response?
Yeah, I'm happy.
There we are, Jane. You don't need to contact legal. I think that is an appropriate response, which is well within our remit. So, Jane,
that's
you're
okay, Chair. Okay.
But thank you for that, and it was important we didn't stray off the agenda while it was on the agenda into other parts of possibly not being able to give an answer to. So thank you for that. Anybody else got a question on the replacement local development plan? Can I just ask one quick question, Kerr? Really, do you know candidate sites again? I touched on it before. Is it January that, or is it already open? I've had a number of businesses asking when they can put candidate sites in for various types of planning. Is it already open, or have we got to wait before they come in? Just a quick question on that, if you don't mind.
Lance, can I defer?
Yeah, that's no problem. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Hunt. So the team are currently working on the candidate site assessment methodology and also the guidance notes, and we hope to get them onto the website possibly mid-January, but the call officially starts when it's March, April and May, over those 3 months, and then the register then will be published after the elections. Because we have to publish the the register online as well. So that's the timeline. But in Appendix A of the report, we've got the full sort of timeline of the replacement LDP there. But yeah, that's a key part. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lana. And obviously we sometimes miss things in all our jobs. So hopefully I'll pick that up ready when businesses are asking for it again. So, but thank you very much. Thank you, Kerry. I don't see anybody else asking a question on this item. So this item is for a decision. So its recommendations are on page 134 and 135. Again, there are 3 separate recommendations, but I will take these also in their entirety. So can I have a proposer and seconder for them, please?
I'll move, Chair.
Thank you, Sean. Seconder?
Second, Chair.
Thanks, Rachel. You've got that, Chloe?
Yeah, Chair, can we just see that everyone else is happy with that as well? Just
yes,
if not, raise your hand.
That's right. Can you raise your hand if you're not, or if you want to? You're all right, Sean. Dean put his thumbs up. If you're against it, raise your hands. That's all. There we are.
That's fine, Chair.
You all right? Sorry about that. Excellent. Thanks, Chloe. The next item then is the Transforming Towns Place Market Making Grant. Apologies. So Simon, I don't know if you want to add anything to this item.
Nothing to add, Chair, but myself and Andrew are here to take some questions.
There we are. Sean, Councillor Percy first then, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, so having a sort of quick look at this, it looks like an amalgamation of several things that have been going on over the years in terms of commercial property grant and things to do with converting commercial properties into houses, and there's various little things I suppose we've had funding for in the past, and what looks like some new things, for example, pop-up things and empty units. So my question is, I suppose, some of this looks like it would need a bit of proactive intervention from us to coordinate and deliver. For example, the shopfront enhancement scheme where you get 5 or more properties to take part is one example, but some of the others I think are on a similar vein. And I'm just wondering, are we geared up for doing that to sort of make the most of this grant? Because it seems like there's a few more opportunities here than we've had previously. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Sean. Andrew?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reality of the situation on the ground, Sean, is as you can see, we've got 4.5 million between the region, so that gives us about 1.1 million, but we can ask for more if we need it. The situation on the ground is that, you know, we're going to spend at least that, if not more, with the pipeline projects that we've already got. These do include renovating commercial premises, but we are looking at as well at the smaller stuff like the markets and events and the pop-up shops where we're talking to our Albion Shopping Centre at the moment. So, you know, we're trying to spread it as far as we can, but the likelihood is that we're not going to have enough money at the end of the day to fulfil all our obligations under the pipelines. With regards to that, I anticipate that some members may wonder why we're restricting it to these larger towns. I would like to say that, you know, as a Regeneration team, we're aware that a lot of Welsh Government money is going into the larger urban areas such as Neath and Talbot in particular. We did put forward a long list where we asked if we could include secondary and tertiary centres, for example, Talbot, Skewing, Carmarthen, Cymru, Gwauncae, and it was not back, I'm afraid. We were told quite clearly by the Welsh Government that we had to focus on the larger settlements. But I would say that that does not disclude any of the other settlements if we can put forward a good case. So if you've got a settlement in your ward that isn't included on that list, then please speak to us and we will try and put forward a case for you.
Thank you for that, Andrew. Sean, do you want to come back?
Yeah, no, that's great. I guess if we've perhaps got a pipeline of projects that sort of fit in with all of this funding, I guess the next question is, could we have a report, even if that's in private, perhaps in future, to maybe give us an outline of where we're looking to go with some of the funding opportunities? I think the committee would appreciate that.
Yes, of course, Sean.
Thank you for that, Andrew. Councillor Nigel Hunt did indicate, I don't know if you're still here, Nigel?
Chair, I think he's dropped out.
He did put his hand up. I may come back to Andrew perhaps if he rejoined. Oh, he's back, look. Nigel, you put your hand up for a question on this item?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I just briefly got my line going to go well. But anyway, I just want to ask about the digital, the town transforming towns. On the digital, there's a digital side to it. Are we able to help out town centres with digital projects? Because I think the connectivity is quite poor in some commercial areas. I know that we got the city deal and that's supposed to be doing digital infrastructure, but that's what I'm going to ask. Does this town centre transformation, will it be doing anything with the digital infrastructure?
I think that it's probably the city deal work is going to be more aligned to that, I think, to be honest, Councillor Hunt. I think what we're talking about in this one is understanding, you know, how we can use digital to improve footfall and things like that, and to measure footfall and do all those types of pieces of work rather than putting in digital infrastructure within our town centres. But hopefully the other funding stream with the city deal will address that.
All right, Nigel.
Yeah, thank you, Simon. Thank you, Chair.
Anybody else have a question on this item?
Chair, Councillor James. Yep.
I know. Do you want to? Have you got it in front of you? Do you want to read it out, Chloe? I think it was more of a. He was making a point.
It was more of a comment. Yeah.
Yeah, comment he was making. So I think we do bound to read it out. If you want to do that, then Chloe, go.
Yep, I've got it here in his email. He just said there is a need for this funding for rundown shops in the community. I think he was referring to the street scene of the area as well. So that was just a comment about the, needing the grant for those purposes.
Which councillor was that? Sorry, Chloe.
Hugh James, Councillor Hugh James.
Yeah,
just note that, Andrew. And just a brief point from myself. When we refer to, and we do know the structure of the council at the moment, as with officers and the workforce. I mean, Pontardawe is a town and Neath is a town. I just wondered the complication of doing grant funding and forms and so forth to actually deliver for them. It sort of puts everybody off, and I mean, it takes a very special business to be able to know how to actually do their part of the application. And I've done many with Simon and yourself and others, and I've relied on officers to a certain extent. So I just wondered, is yourself and other parts of your team able to still meet the support needs of those that do qualify anyway, irrespective of where they are? Because the last thing we would want, if there is a pot of money, and we are good, as Annette mentioned earlier and others, is that we are good at getting the funding into Neath Talbot, but then it's another job of distributing it as best we can to meet the needs of our communities across all of Neath Talbot. So I just wondered, where are you? I don't want to put you on the spot, of course, but I just wondered, Simon, you and your team, where you are really in that support if they did need to rely on you to deliver any particular project. That's just one quickie from me. Thank you.
I think obviously we'll give whatever help we can, but there is a sort of limit, unfortunately, with the amount of staff hours that we have, and businesses do have to do some of the work themselves. I mean, it's always a challenge, and we're always grateful when we receive money from Welsh Government or UK Government, if and when that comes. But it is a challenge, you're right, to actually distribute it, because there is an awful lot of infrastructure that needs to be put in place to make sure that money is distributed fairly and along with the criteria of the grant.
Yeah, I expected that. Oh, thank you for that, Simon. Okay, this item again is for information. Therefore, we just need to note the report. There we are. I was trying to rush the meeting, see, Chloe, now I'm getting to where I was a little bit earlier. We now go back to the scrutiny agenda to look at the forward work programme. It is attached for information and for members to note. So, Chloe, do you have anything to add on this, please?
No, Chair, as you said, it's just for noting.
Thank you, Chloe. Item 9 are urgent items. We have one urgent item which we have chosen not to scrutinise, as we are happy with the recommendations contained within the report to go straight to the Cabinet Board. Okay. We're on item 10, access to meetings. So, to resolve to exclude the public from the following items of pursuit to section 100A, paragraph 4 and paragraph 5 of the Local Government Act 1972 and the relevant exempt paragraphs of part 4 of the Schedule 12A to the above Act. Can I have somebody to move? We go into private under those rules.
I'll move, Chair.
Seconder.
Second, Chair.
Thanks, Rachel. Chloe, we're now going to private. Can you check that members of the public and press have left?
Yep, I'm just going to stop the recording, Chair.
And